Ukraine war. NATO will respond if Russia uses chemical weapons, says US. Welcome to the news and please subscribe to our channel. To get notified when we post hot juicy news updates, please click on the notification bell. He gave the warning after Vladimir Putin's spokesman refused to rule out nuking Ukraine in the face of an existential threat. NATO will respond if Russian President Vladimir Putin uses chemical weapons in Ukraine, US President Joe Biden has said. Asked if the alliance would take military action, Mr. Biden said such an attack would trigger a response in kind. Speaking after the meetings of NATO and the G7, he said we would respond if he uses the chemical weapons. The nature of the response would depend on the nature of the use. Russia's deputy UN ambassador Dmitry Polyansky has said Sky News Moscow would use nuclear weapons if provoked by NATO. He gave the warning after Vladimir Putin's spokesman refused to rule out nuking Ukraine in the face of an existential threat. Asked if Putin was right to hold the prospect of a nuclear war over the rest of the world, Mr. Polyansky told Sky News if Russia is provoked by NATO, if Russia is attacked by NATO, why not? We are a nuclear power. I don't think it is the right thing to be saying, but it's not the right thing to threaten Russia and try to interfere. So when you're dealing with a nuclear power, of course, you have to calculate all the possible outcomes of your behavior. Chemical warfare is a real threat now, Joe Biden says, as the diplomatic talks continue. The US and its allies have previously said that they are concerned Russia might resort to using chemical weapons at its invasion struggles against Ukrainian resistance, with Mr. Biden saying it was a real threat. Addressing what would happen if Mr. Putin deployed weapons of mass destruction, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said you have to have a bit of ambiguity about a response. But I think it would be catastrophic for him if he were to do that, and I think he needs to understand that. I think you understand that. But he said Mr. Biden was right to warn about the threat, adding that when the Russians start doing stuff about their factories in Ukraine producing American biological weapons, you know that is a prelude to a false flag operation. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg echoed his comments, saying we are concerned partly because we see the rhetoric and we see that Russia is trying to create some kind of pretext accusing Ukraine, the United States and NATO allies of preparing to use chemical and biological weapons. And we have seen before that this way of accusing others is actually a way to try to create a pretext to do the same themselves. A similar tactic has been used in Syria, where the Russian-backed regime has often sought to blame the rebels it is fighting, while it has been accused of using chemical weapons against its own people. Mr. Stoltenberg said if chemical agents were used by the spread across the border, affecting one of its member states. NATO leaders also agreed to send Ukraine protective equipment to defend itself against biological, chemical, and nuclear attacks. The White House has set up a team of national security officials to plan for what happens if Russia uses chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine, a senior administration official said. White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan sent a memo 28 February describing how the so-called Tiger team would consider what could happen over the next 3 months of conflict, the official told NBC News. Scenarios under discussion were said to have included Russia using chemical or biological weapons, Russia targeting U.S. convoys carrying weapons to Ukraine, the global food supply being disrupted, and the refugee crisis. Russia is among the 193 countries that have signed the Chemical Weapons Convention, a treaty that bans the development, production, or use. Biden should stop deceiving Ukraine because if Russia go ahead and use chemical weapons, Biden will still do nothing. Exactly. I don't know why these people, they're not saying what is actually going on. If NATO continues to push Putin and Russians to the wall, all in the name of sanctions, thereby threatening the existence of Russia and her citizens. However, Putin will have no other choice than to use both chemical and nuclear weapons available to him. Hence, the World War III. NATO should be careful with Putin for peace to reign. So as long as Russia is using conventional weapons, Ukraine is on their own. This has proved my people wrong where they said war support is greater than war. To me, I keep saying that dialogue is the way. At the end of the day, to still end the dialogue, why not allow dialogue to end it now, before it gets too late? Russia should dare NATO by using chemical weapons on Ukraine. Let the spectators see who is stronger, Putin or NATO. That automatically translates into Third World War. Ukraine is not yet a member of NATO. Honestly, Zelensky, you know nothing about politics. You have been played. Zeal without knowledge is destruction. Exactly. EU is not serious about bringing peace in Ukraine. They did not expect a special military operation by Mr. Putin. Now the whole of Europe is feeling the heat of the war due to scarcity of their basic necessities. They will now understand the effects of sanctions that they are using against Afghanistan, Iranians, Syrians, and the rest. That's how Ukraine was deceived by the US and its allies with sweet mouth. Russia was loading troops in Ukraine, but as the West were busy ranting here and there, if we dare invade Ukraine, we will respond swiftly. How on earth do you think just ordinary sanctions would hurt Russia? Stop giving Ukraine high hopes. NATO knows quite alright that Ukraine can never be a NATO member. That is why I'm saying, you see NATO and the EU countries, leave these people alone. Zelensky and Putin, settle your matters on dialogue. At the end of the day, it is still dialogue. So why don't you use dialogue right now? I just pity Ukraine citizens because they have the most... Oh my God, NATO is just using Zelensky to do an empty brag on Russia. Wow. No wonder they said if you can't use your brain by yourself, another man will use it for his own good. But Zelensky has forgotten that. Okay. Putin is a weapon from hell to cause wahala to the whole world. I pity this world. Look, I've said it before, and I'll keep repeating it. NATO, leave these people alone. EU countries, leave these people alone. Leave Russia and Ukraine alone. Let everybody shut their mouth, hold their peace, and let us see what Zelensky and Putin will put together. Zelensky should by now know that these people are not coming. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody told you. You are not informed. Nobody is coming to save you. So the best thing to do is to act like you're the only one who can save your people, and think about the catastrophic effect that will affect you alone. Don't think of it as affecting other countries. You alone, and know that you alone are going to bear the consequences. Then you will now tell me if you want to continue doing what you're doing, or you want to go for peace. Okay, on this note, we've come to the end of the news to say thank you for tuning in to listen. And until I come here next time, enjoy the rest of your day.